All right, let's go ahead and get to it here. The weather's doing all kinds of crazy things right now about this time of year, so hopefully we don't have a bunch of issues here. But for tonight's program, it's time to go ahead and update your files for you here. It's time to go ahead and update that because we have not had a chance to update the files of all of you who've been following the idea of what it means to be a producer, a builder, or high value. It's time to go ahead and update your files and put that into perspective for you. So without further ado,
join me and I will complete your training.
It's time to go ahead and update your files. Now, what I want to do here is I want to clarify what the stratas are, and I want to give you the specific numbers on it and the substantiation behind those specific numbers. So going forward, you understand what it is and what it means. First of all here, let's go ahead and define a couple of things. What is working class? Working class is pretty much anything from poverty going towards the median income. Now, the reason why that's the area that I'm choosing is because you can't use it nationally per se, but you can. Well, Jason, what the hell does that mean? You can't, but you can. We'll get into that a little bit later. But first of all, what we define is working class. Now, some of these terms that I use actually branch across some of these income brackets because the top two are by themselves and the bottom three can actually be coalesced among themselves. So first and foremost, when we're referring to working class, we used to use the term underclass. So those of you who don't know, we used to use the word underclass back when we used to say high class. Folks didn't want to say lower classes anymore. So politically speaking, we stopped saying lower classes and we stopped even saying underclasses. Now they use the term working classes, even though a lot of these folks don't work. But the first strata is working class. So basically that is your entry level. And entry level pretty much has a pretty wide swath there because you start seeing this pretty much anywhere and everywhere you are. Median income in America is about $55,000. So you see where that comes in. Next up is the middle class. Now, I put the middle class as starting at 75 to 150,000. Now, I'm not meaning to say necessarily that it stops there, but I am saying that it has to begin there. Why does it have to begin there? Because technically speaking, if you're making $75,000, you pretty much have enough income to support more than one person. Now, while it is possible to be a single person who is, quote, middle class, it's almost impossible to be a middle class person who can only support yourself. Even if it is supporting yourself uncomfortably, it's basically impossible to be a middle class person who can only support themselves. So that's why that income has to stretch up over 100,000 because you need to be able to support more than just yourself to truly be middle class. It does give you some abilities that working class or underclass cannot afford, but the real point of it is you can support more than one person. Next, we're going to come to upper middle class. Now, once you start getting here, this is an area where most folks start to get confused. A lot of folks start to get confused here. If you are a single person in America today making more than $200,000 a year, we can start to begin to use the term affluent, but I really wouldn't use that term here. We would really just use the terms economically comfortable. You can put kids in private school if you have one. You can start affording some of these more upscale comforts, and poverty is pretty much in the rear view mirror as far as yearly income is concerned. Yearly income. And all of these are referring to yearly income. This is not taking into account some of the megalopolises like New York, LA, Miami. Not directly, but indirectly it is. Don't worry, I'm going to get to that as we go on. But once you get to $200,000 to $400,000 a year, you are now upper middle class. Now, technically, you're still in the strata of the working individuals. We're talking about salary income. Because for all these things I just gave you here, you can still work for somebody else and make this kind of money. You still can. As for the most part, as a matter of fact, if you're making that, usually you're going to have to work for somebody else to still make that kind of money. But next, we come to the so-called high value. Now, high value is going to be somebody who's making from $500,000 to $1 million a year. Now, why did I put that there? Because whether you are a single person by yourself, no wife, no kids, or whether you are married with a wife and 1 or 2 children, you're still living an affluent life. So upper middle class is not really going to be affluent. Once we get to high value, now you're true affluent. Now you are truly affluent. Upper middle class is not truly affluent. High value is truly affluent. At this point right now, taking care of private schools, after school activities, a vacation every year, none of those things are going to bankrupt the family. None. It used to be that when you said that you made $1 million a year, that was it. You were in rare air. You were the man. This is great. This is it. But even those of you in your 20s, I think, understand that $1 million a year isn't what it was 30 or 40 years ago. $1 million a year isn't rich. Let me say this again. Even those of you who are young understand that making $1 million a year doesn't make you rich today. Now, when I was a kid, and even up until 20 years ago, making $1 million a year meant you were rich. Today, it isn't. Today, $1 million a year is just on the way upper end of you're outside the middle class, but you are not rich. You're not rich because once you start taking into account what a rich person should be able to do, you realize that $1 million doesn't do it. When you start talking about rich, what you mean is that what the working class would need to spend the rest of their lives living, but you realize $1 million, could a person today live the rest of their lives on just $1 million, never make another penny again? And in most of your cities, that would be impossible. That would be impossible. Hell, one exotic car would wipe out half your wealth. So it used to be that when you were rich, you could buy you could buy a mansion and several exotic luxury cars. You can't do that today. If you attempted to do so, just one of those exotic cars would wipe you out. So for that reason, you can't count it that way. $1 million a year is no longer rich. It is certainly comfortable. It is certainly well off. It is certainly affluent. Absolutely, it's affluent if you're making that every year. But it's not rich. Not anymore, it isn't. Then we come to the final bracket here, peak value, which is where I want you all to understand updating your files. Once you make it into the strata of being $2 million a year or more, technically speaking, most of the world's socioeconomic landscape is open to you. When you are making $2 million a year or more, most of it is open to you. And certainly if you're making $5 million a year or more, most of it, practically all of it, is open to you. The nicer, finer things, those are open to you. Whatever are the material possessions you like to have without it bankrupting you, that's open to you. Your ability to travel the world and experience different environments without it bankrupting you, that's open to you. That's not really something that the working class, middle class, or even upper middle class can do. And even so-called high value would struggle to do that. Once you get to 2 million or more, even if you got a wife and kids, that is something that you can accomplish without hurting yourself. And that's why I refer to it as peak value. It's 2 million, anywhere from $2 million to $1 billion a year. $2 million a year, you can easily afford a Lamborghini, a Rolls Royce, a a 5 to 10,000 square foot house. Because you see, employees can make $10,000 to $400,000 a year. That's something employees can do. Once you get to $500,000 a year or more, you can't do that as an employee, not unless you're an executive. You got to be a contractor, self-employed, come from a family of money, be some type of investment broker, but you can't really do that as a regular employee. Not anymore. Not anymore. That's the reality of it. Now, let's go ahead and backtrack here a little bit. When I was saying before, this applies nationally, but it doesn't. What I'm saying is that, for example, if you live in New York City or Los Angeles, well, working class is pretty much going to extend from $10,000 even up to $100,000. Well, at $100,000, you're not impoverished, but you ain't balling. That's the point I've been trying to make. Whether you got a woman and kids or whether you don't, whether you're a single person with no children or whether you're married, you ain't balling at $100,000 a year. You're not. Get to that upper middle class, and certainly you have escaped from that working class constraint. But I would still dare to say that you wouldn't consider yourself to be rich either. You would consider yourself to be a skilled laborer. You would consider yourself to be an upper income laborer, thus upper middle class, but you wouldn't consider yourself to be rich by any stretch of the imagination. And there's a reason for that, because you live in a place where you've met real rich people. You've met real rich people, and you understand that $400,000 a year isn't rich. $400,000 a year, you got folk in the building that you work in Los Angeles, New York, Miami, Chicago. You got folks in the same building with you making $400,000 a year, not living very far from where you do. So that's the reason why you cannot consider it in that way. And now it's spread so to pretty much all of your major cities, your NFL cities, your major sports cities, your major tourism cities. You understand that now. This is no longer a New York, Los Angeles, Miami, Chicago thing. This is an Atlanta, Dallas, St. Louis, Nashville, Louisville, DC, Arlington, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Minneapolis, Fargo, Seattle. This is one of those things now. This is one of those things. Charlotte. This is one of those things. It's no longer a megalopolis thing. This is everywhere. This is everywhere. And so to truly escape that, you'd have to be making $2 million a year or more to achieve the idea that you have of being rich. You have to achieve that. If you all agree with what I'm saying here tonight, give me the money bag emoji in the chat room and hit the likes button for me. It's time for us to go in depth and update your files. If you agree with me, give me the money bag emoji and hit the likes button. It's over 1,600 people here live just in the first 13 minutes. And we have a lot of ground to cover. Let's go ahead and give that a chance here. Now, the next thing I want to get into here is, now that we've covered the income brackets, now that we've covered those to see what that looks like, I now want to take you to the next step. Which is the points of high value, the elements that go into it, so you understand what that is. I want to take you into those elements so you can see exactly what that looks like. Because those are things that haven't been explained to you or haven't been explained to you properly. But before we do that, there's a distinction that needs to be made. I have to make this distinction first so that you understand exactly what we're talking about here tonight. Because we've basically covered that strata from between working class and high status. Well, what in the world do we mean by high status? This will be a slide here that explains that to you. This is what it means to be high status. This is what the men are working toward. This is what the women want and what the men want to become. Or at least you should. But this is what that means. This is what it means. If you're outside that working class, middle class strata, this is where you are. High status is anywhere from high value to peak value, depending on what you do with it. It's anywhere in there. So now you understand why that matters, because we're about to get into the points that determine high status, which begins with high value but tops out at peak value. And that's why I need you to update your files tonight, because we're going to get into that. First of all, high status men, and as we have covered here exactly what that means, if you're a guy who's high status, what does that mean? High status men love to compete, and money is just another level of competition. This becomes very scary. This becomes very frightening, because you see, competition means you're going to have to sacrifice. Competition means you're going to have to bleed. Competition means you're going to have to get thrown some sharp elbows. Competition isn't a place for mama's boys. Competition is not where mama's boys hang out at. Competitors have to be prepared to get injured. They have to be prepared to take a loss. Competitors have to be prepared for that. So the first thing is to understand that if you're going to become high status men all understand one thing. They love to compete. Money is just a side effect of being able to compete. You out-competed everyone else, or most of the folks around you. You shouldn't get confused about that, however. You shouldn't get confused about what it means to out-compete, because that can become a relative thing, and that can actually hamper you if you don't keep it in proper context. Next, mental and financial competence are how men gain respect. Women are born with leverage. Women are born with their leverage. If I can just be brutally frank, women are born with theirs. Men have to achieve ours. Women are born with the level of leverage that they have. Men have to get up, go in the world, be productive, produce something, make something, create something, gain something, and then you've got leverage. And from there, you have respect. Remember that respect, by its definition, requires an element of fear. And I don't mean fear as in terror. I mean fear as in people understand they must handle you a certain way. They must handle you a certain way. Mental and financial competence is how men gain respect. You notice I said mental and financial, not just financial. There's a lot of guys out here who make above average income. They're beta as hell. They don't get respect. An individual who has mental competence to go along with his financial competence is going to gain respect. He's not a pushover. He's not a fool. He learns from his mistakes. He has his purpose and his goal. He understands that he must be a complete mental person. He must excel mentally so that he can also excel financially. And that's what it means. So that's very important to have. The next area is a man doesn't get above average income in order to have an average life. A man does not get an above average income so that he can go off and live an average life. If a man wishes to have an average life, he doesn't have to go through all of the extra work and turmoil and toil of getting an above average income. Getting an above average income is hard. Getting an above average income is difficult. Getting an above average income is stressful. Getting an above average income is painful. Having an average income is far easier. So the only reason that you would desire an above average income is so that you will have an above average life. It's going to be a lot of struggle. It's going to be a lot of difficulty. It's going to be a lot of stress. There are greater rewards, but there's also a greater price to pay. It depends on who you are. Do you accept and have you determined that your life, you want to have those greater rewards? That you're not satisfied with entry-level rewards. You want to have the finest and everything that's out there. Not because you're arrogant or narcissistic, but because that is where your personality resonates. That you give your best, therefore you expect the world to give its best. So under those circumstances, a man doesn't get above average income to have an average life. He's made the determination that he's here to have an above average life. Whether people think that's a great thing or not. Fellas, let me give you a key barometer. If you have an average life, if you have an average woman, then you have an average life. I didn't ask if you thought that that was great or not. I'm just telling you the truth. If you have an average woman, then you also have an average life. And that's just the bottom line. If your woman is not exceptional in some way doesn't mean I feel exceptional about her. I'm talking about she walks into a room of other women and she stands out. If you do not have an exceptional woman, then you don't have an exceptional life. If you have an average woman, you got an average life. That would be a brutal thing for some fellas to accept because they want to believe they've been raised by single mothers, so they bring to the world single mother failure logic and coping mechanisms. But the truth of the matter is, look to your right, stare at your broad. If you gaze at an average chick, guess who's the average dude? But Jason, don't say it. But Jason, I'm warning you, don't say it. See, that's the problem right there. You don't want to listen to other people. Okay, go ahead and say your dumbassery. You can talk like that, but I'm going to speak. There are men's out there who make $500,000 a year or more, and they have an average female. Those are what we refer to as professional alphas. He has the financial competence, he lacks the mental and emotional competence. Or put more succinctly, he is a guy who is an embarrassment and a waste of his finances because he is not living his life in balance. He brings excellence, and yet he's sabotaged that environment with something that doesn't match the level of excellence financially that he's achieved. So in other words, he's a pookie with money. And some of you might think that's an oxymoron, but it isn't. He's a pookie with money. That's what he is. A pookie with money. And it's questionable how long he'll be able to retain that. But a woman is your representative, and a man whose representative is deficient is showing poor judgment. I don't care how much money he makes, he is demonstrating poor judgment. And the woman he has next to him is an indication that he is exercising poor judgment. That's an issue. As men, we recognize poor judgment as a fundamental flaw. So when I see him operating on the position of financial strength, but I see his woman who reflects weakness, well, you all understand empires have fallen because of men who knew how to start, and through their bad choices, between their deficient choices, they show that they were not ready. The results are inevitable. So a man who exercises poor judgment. He has extraordinary capability, but he has surrounded himself with average people. You all see this with former athletes all the time. You can already spot your favorite athletes who are going to go broke. You see them surrounding themselves with average people. And automatically, once you see that, you automatically recognize that there's a problem here. You recognize that instantaneously. Hey, this guy is squandering his ability. He has extraordinary ability, but he's surrounding himself with average people. Therefore, he is expressing a fundamental flaw that will eventually lead to ruin, or at the very least is going to prevent him from going higher than he could. Folks not liking tonight's program, I understand that. I'll just swing through it. The next thing on here is that women are a barometer of a man's success. A man can take a look at the quality of female around him. A man can take a look at the quality of the females around him. And he can see whether or not he is truly successful. Now, Jason, why would you say that in particular? What does it matter, the quality of women that you have around you? Because men have a survival instinct around other men. Hope y'all are taking notes tonight. Men deal with women and other men differently. So men have a survival instinct around other men. So we tend to be more competitive and we deal with other men differently. However, women do not get or choose a man for the reasons, women don't associate with a man for the reasons that men associate with other men. Women associate with us for different reasons. So you see, you might have other men who deal with you and do business with you and work with you and hang out with you and whatever, but it's not for the same reasons that the women do. Women are associating with you for different reasons. She's got a different reason for, of all the places she could be, she is choosing to be in your company. If there is a value there and she sees an intrinsic value, it's different from what the men see. Women associate with men because we've proven our ability to her to enhance her life and provide her with additional tools for survival that she would be unable to acquire on her own. Remember that unable to acquire on her own part. Remember that part. But women are a barometer of a man's success. And it's true. Take a look at the quality of the females that are around a man. Take a look at the quality of female that he has. And it's true. You take a look at the quality of female standing next to the man, and that tells us so much about his life. This is his co-pilot. This is the person watching his back. This is the woman who is providing him with motivation. This is the example of femininity, of genetic continuation, is choosing him. Because let's be very, very clear, when a woman chooses to be in a man's company, y'all understand sex can happen, and that means children, which means she's already making a decision about your genetic viability. When I take a look at the woman next to you, I can make all kinds of assumptions because they are true. I can make all kinds of assumptions because they are true about the validity and value of the females that you have around you, and thus how competently you're running your own life. I can see that because this woman's survival hangs in the balance. And if women who are excellent at being women are avoiding you, then that tells me about your ability to be competent. Next, high status men aren't fragile. They can handle feast or famine. Let me say it again because some of you here got it twisted. High status men are not fragile. They are able to handle feast or famine. You cannot be a true high status man if you cannot encounter, endure, and overcome adversity. If adversity breaks you, then by definition, you are not a high status man. You were just lucky. Let me say it again. If adversity is able to break you, then you are not truly a high status man. You were just lucky to get where you were. High status men can eat well. High status men can also live off the land. High status men are able to encounter, in the words of Rudyard Kipling, success or failure and treat both of those imposters the same, because he understands that the success isn't an incidental characteristic. The success is something that's inherent and built into him. That he is the source of the success. Well, if you're the source of the success, then that means any and every failure is by definition temporary. You see, if your success came from somewhere else, you know it because when you encounter success, you break. But if your success came from you, then by definition, any failure that you happen to encounter, you know already that you can survive it and endure it and overcome it because you're the source of the success, not luck or circumstances. You are the source. Adversity just reveals whether or not you are truly the source or not. Adversity simply reveals whether you are truly the source of the success or whether you just got lucky. Because if I can knock you down 3 times and you get back up 3 times, then guess what? That ain't luck. That's skill. This person knows what they're doing. And therefore the females trust in you because she knows it ain't luck. Now, if you're a dummy, don't get me wrong, the chicks are going to line up all over the place and they're going to be like, hell, we'll just play his little stupid easy ass. And understand, women play men for easy money the way that men play women for easy sex. You don't have to like it. You don't have to think that's honorable. You don't have to think that's great. But that's reality. Women play men for easy money the same way that men play women for easy sex. If you offer it, they'll take it from you. But guess what? They don't value you. Folks can see when you're built different, when you're built real. Because there are deeper things to you. Going to come to that in just a few moments also. But there are deeper things to you. You're deeper than skin deep. You're deeper than surface. And because of that, they know, well, this isn't luck, it's skill. Better watch how we deal with them differently. Nice guys mince words. Competent men are blunt. Nice guys mince words. Competent men are blunt. You all ever notice that if you had doctors or whatever, the better the doctor is, the more like the doctor, what's the name, the TV show House? Notice the more like that? You show me a nice doctor, I'll show you an incompetent one. Competent men are blunt. You show me a nice attorney, I'll show you an incompetent one. Competent men are blunt. Competent men do not have to worry about sparing your feelings. Competent men are flush with options. Competent men recognize that efficiency dictates that the sooner he gets to the point, the better. Competent men are blunt. Nice guys sit around hoping that the world will dispense to them some charity. Nice guys get taken advantage of on a regular basis. Nice guys get exploited on a regular basis and tell themselves they're winning. Until finally they've lost completely. Blunt people understand the necessity of making sure that they've clearly communicated to you what needs to be done and what is expected of you. Furthermore, they've clearly communicated to you what they intend to do. That they will go to this point and no further. So for those of you who didn't understand, you're like, I'll hang out with rich people. They were jerks. They were asses. No, they were just competent and blunt. You're not used to that. You know why? Because you other folks here, you're used to hanging out with, quote, nice people. What you mean is that they allow you to sit there and loiter in front of their house. That they don't require you to be productive. They just let you hang around. Competent people don't just let folks hang around. Competent people have an agenda. If you are in a competent person's presence, there is supposed to be an agenda at play. If there isn't, there's no reason for this interaction to be taking place. Are you casing the joint? Are you looking for something to steal? Because if this interaction has a point and a purpose for being, then we should go ahead and get to it. Why is it that you've been here for 2 hours and when you leave, the environment is the same? Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes you'll entertain friends or family. But what I'm saying here is that even at that, if somebody asks your opinions, your thoughts or whatever, nice guys mince words. Competent people are blunt. So they make sure that you understand, hey, other folks might deal with you dishonestly. I won't. I don't have to, and I won't. This one right here, I'm going to have to beat this one through your heads for a little while. I have to beat this one. I want you to drill this one through your head. Phony people don't bring their proof. Phony people don't bring their proof. You have heard it said by other people that a high-value man should be able to make $120,000 a year for 5 years or more. He was taking part of what I said there, but you need to understand that's never really been the metric that I've used, and for a reason. First of all, to become excellent at something takes at least a decade of work, study, intense practice. So if you are a good athlete, a good artist, a good singer, that's not the result of a crazy summer in Wisconsin. That is the result of a decade of hard work, dedication, stick-to-itiveness, persistence. So first and foremost, understand that high status is not the result of 5 years of consistency. It is the result of at least 10 years of consistency. It is not the result of 5 years of consistency. Achieving excellence is the result of at least 10 years of consistency. Everything after that is simply the result of those 10 years of consistency. And what we find out later is whether or not you've got skill or whether or not you've got luck. If what you have is skill, then it's not going to be difficult for you, nor will it be a problem for you to be able to maintain. See, this is the reason why people who have made it only want to hang out with other people who've made it. People who made it don't want to hang out with folks who are struggling. Because the only thing that a person who is struggling can do, remember, if you've got people in your proximity, you're going to become like them. If the people in your proximity are lazy, you will become like them. If the people in your proximity are striving but failing, you'll become like them. If the people in your proximity are striving and succeeding, you'll become like them. Even if the people you hang out with are merely on the internet. Even if the only people that you associate with are on the internet, if you are consistently with people who are pushing, people who are driven, people who are striving, people who are overcoming problems, you will become like them. There's a value to curating the quality of the people around you. It's better to have no people you talk to in the real world and some striving, successful people that you talk to online than to have a bunch of folk who have 1,000 friends in the real world who are struggling. And there you are in the middle of them. So you see, high status men keep expensive items around. They keep them over the years. It isn't about flossing. It is because it proves to other successful people that what you've got is skill and not luck. Luck can do something for a fluke season, maybe 2 or 3. Luck is not going to be able to hang in there for 6, 8, 10 years. Luck isn't going to be able to do that. Your luck will run out. Your luck is eventually going to run out. So what you do is you send these nonverbal signals. The purpose of having status items around you over the course of an extended period of time is you're demonstrating to other exceptional people, people who have escaped from the working class, upper middle class stratas and gotten into peak value and high value or high status. You're showing them and demonstrating not through your words, but through your actions that where I'm at today is a result of skill, not of luck. That's extremely valuable to those people because they meet imposters every day. Successful people meet imposters every day. They meet liars every day because he's got something valuable. He's always encountering people who are trying to figure out some way to steal it from him, take it from him, sucker him out of it, exploit him from it. He's constantly got to be on guard against that. So what he's going to look for are the telltale signs that you are authentic. He's going to look for that. So high status men keep expensive items around because that is the nonverbal sign to other successful people that, hey, I'm not a fake, I'm not a phony. This is skill, it ain't luck. Now I want to move into the next area here because what I just gave you there, those are just the basics. Those apply to a lot of folks there. They apply to a lot of folks. But what I'm showing you right now, this is something different. This is something different. And this goes back to what I was telling you about here before. Now we're getting into, I'll totally honest, we're getting into peak value. I want you to understand making the change over from high value to peak value. And this is where we're going to update all of your files tonight because the standards that you have been using are obsolete. I say again, your standards you've been talking about up until now are obsolete. The stuff you see on YouTube is obsolete. It's not what's happening in the real world. First of all here, high status men take care of luxuries, not necessities. Jason, what do you mean by that? There is a huge misnomer that is going around right now about females. A lot of folks don't understand it. A lot of folks don't get it. Huge misnomer about females out there. And the biggest misnomer that's going around right now is that a woman wants a man who's going to pay for her needs. But any man who focuses on providing a woman with alleged quote unquote necessities, he's already dead in the water and done before he even gets started. He's already dead in the water and done before he gets started. And the reason for this is because A woman can already take care of her needs. She can already provide for her necessities. But this is the next thing that men need to keep in mind. Do you want men, women, co-workers, family members, other people who cannot provide their own necessities? Here's where you get tripped up and messed up and folks sit up here and lure you off into a trick bag. Ask yourselves a question before you question the logic of what I just said, that men men with status take care of luxuries, not necessities. Ask yourselves a question. How many of you would like to surround yourselves with family members, co-workers, girlfriends, wives, associates who cannot provide their own necessities for themselves? Yeah, nobody explained it to you like this, because once you consider it that way, you say, oh, well, if I'm taking care of their necessities, well, I'm actually floating them and carrying them. Is this even a situation you want to get into? Are you exercising proper judgment? So you see, first and foremost, the people that you provide for, the only ones who you should be providing for who cannot provide for themselves, are your children. Children are people who you have to provide necessities for. It's the 21st century today. Any female who's held a job, baby, I'm so glad you did that right there. Welcome to the new world. If you was able to carry it before now, okay, don't start getting wobbly in the knees. A man with status takes care of luxuries, not necessities. Well, Jason, why is it you would focus on the luxuries here? Because you got to understand, luxuries are things that other people cannot do for themselves. Remember, I mentioned that before. They can't do this for themselves. Do you all know that I put a challenge out there years ago? Any of you boss babes who can buy a Lamborghini Urus, I'll make you my girlfriend and I'll buy you a G-Wagon. Do you know 2 years later, I have yet to have a single female, even with some of the liars who popped up in my chat room, I've had yet to have a single female take me up on that offer. Did you know that? All these so-called alleged boss babes on Facebook and YouTube and lying their asses off in my chat room. And then when I put the challenge out there, not a single one in the last 2 years has stepped up to the plate to say, hey, there's my man. Ain't that kind of funny? Ain't that kind of funny how not a single one has stepped up to the plate yet to show that boss babe energy and that boss babe ability? Ain't that something, fellas? Ain't that funny? Allegedly, all these chicks knocking down major bread. Allegedly, all these chicks making $50, $60, $80, $90, $100 an hour, allegedly. And not a one of them said, yeah, Jason, I can foot a Lamborghini Urus. We'll have his and hers exotic cars. I'll take care of the Urus. You take care of the G-Wagon. We'll have his and hers exotics. Not a single one of them. Kinda makes you think they're full of garbage, don't it?
And deal with it, nigga.
Yeah. But you gotta understand, you see, she can't provide those things for herself. Shout out Kendra G.
Damn!
No hate. No hate. Hey, Kendra, if I can buy you a newer Bentley Continental than that second grader you're driving, if I could buy you a cheaper Continental than that second grader you're driving, would you be available for an upgrade? Asking for a friend. Asking for a friend. Fellas, Understand something. If you truly have status, your job is to provide the luxuries. The necessities, by definition, are supposed to be a given. A woman doesn't have esteem for a man who provides the necessities and no luxuries. A woman isn't truly looking for you to provide her necessities without luxuries. You see, a woman will accept a man, and she's looking for a man who can provide the luxuries, even if he doesn't provide the necessities. Why? Because once a woman is under your necessities, she then considers those to be givens. So by definition, you're actually working backwards. That's the problem. So as a man, your value only comes from elevating her beyond that which she can do for herself. Your value to a woman doesn't kick in until you start showing her, hey, these are the things I can do that you cannot do for yourself. You can put a roof over your head, but you can't put a 4,000 square foot one over your head. You can put your butt cheeks in a vehicle with 4 wheels. You cannot put it in a Maybach GLS. You can put a car in your garage. You can't put a Bentley Bentayga there. You see, that's where a man's status comes in. If you have status, you take care of luxuries, not necessities. It's time to go on vacation. That's not a necessity, that's a luxury. But it's a luxury she cannot provide for herself. Ladies, just knock it off. That's a luxury she cannot provide for herself. If she's got a choice between a man, once again, I got to remind you all what I did on Galentine's Day. There's a reason why men buy gifts for women that women will not buy for themselves. A woman will spend $50 or $80 on another woman. You know what a woman is not going to do? A woman is not going to spend $3,000 or $5,000 on another female. You see, a woman can get one of her girlfriends to give her $200 to pay her light bill. What? A woman can get another female to pay $200 for her light bill. See, a chick can get that. Those are necessities. She can get that. You know where her friend's gonna stop answering the phone? When she calls up a friend and says, girl, you know, I sure would love it if you got me this Fendi bag. She'd be like, what the hell, is we dating? Auntie, chill. She gonna look at you as, is we dating? Am I making sense to you all? The providing of the necessities is quickly forgotten and discarded. That's considered to be a given. A man's value is raised in the eyes of women and everyone else, not by providing for their necessities, but by providing luxuries, because you're now giving them a direct one-to-one comparison between what they can do for themselves and what you can do for them. If you go in there and disregard that, then what all you've really done is you've destroyed the value of it. If you purchase their necessities, they don't appreciate it. Your value comes from elevating them above their necessities. And a lot of fellas have allowed themselves to be trick-bagged. You've allowed yourself to be trick-bagged into believing that the woman doesn't have to bring anything and it's your job to provide both necessities and luxuries. No. No. That's why I'm telling you all, these are the rules for peak value, men. Although if you don't adopt these rules, you'll never go from being high value to peak value. If you want to go and make the transition from being just high value and make it into being peak value, you got to understand these rules. Yeah. I know what you heard. You heard Fresh and Misfit sit up here and tell you that a high value man will be perfectly fine dating the chick who works at Five Guys. Well, he certainly wouldn't mind making a girlfriend of her, but if all she knows how to do is flip burgers, there's not going to be very much to invest. A competitive man has no use for a struggling female. A competent man has no long-term use for an incompetent female. Get that through your heads. Knock it off with these internet slogans and memes you heard. A competent man has no interest and has no use for an incompetent female. So if you are going to be with a competent man, you must be a competent woman. If you cannot handle your necessities, then there's no reason for him to step in and do it. His job is to elevate you above your necessities so that you can start seeing what it's like to operate at his level. It is not his job to come down to your level and float you. It is his job that once you demonstrated you can do that, he brings you up to his level. Your job is to handle your business. His job is to show you that the sky is the limit. What most guys get messed up at is they get so desperate to have a female, they let the female talk him into, you need to be taking care of everything for me. Next thing you know, you find that you've invested far more into the relationship than she has. And by the way, this goes for jobs, businesses, family members, or anything else. You notice I started about family members before. So you're noticing this isn't just one-dimensional. This isn't just romantic relationships. These are power dynamics. As I've always said, these are power dynamics. Next up. Now, this one right here trips up a lot of dudes. Let me go ahead. I need to give an explanation here. I need to give an explanation. I put up a post on Facebook and I removed it. I put up a post on Facebook. Actually, it's still there. I think it's the other one I got removed. I put up a post that said that nerds don't respect, the athletes in school. They don't respect them. Not simply because if they got teased by them, they may not have. It's because you saw these guys who they got accolades, girls' attention, a level of notoriety based on their physical ability, but they didn't have any intellectual ability. So nerds develop a disdain for the guys who hit the gym and work out, but they also develop a disdain for going to the gym and working out because they associate physical development with those guys they used to know in school. Did you get that? Nerds don't like to go to gyms because they associate people who go to gyms as what they remember with the athletes and back in school. Well, they have no respect for those guys because those guys put all of their value and all of their efforts into physical development and no intellectual development. In the long run, the nerds come out ahead in society. Well, this is true, but what the nerd also does is he develops contempt for the guys who hit the gym, but he also develops contempt for the gym itself. He develops contempt for working out itself. Not just for the people who do it, he's now developed contempt for working out itself. Now he doesn't want it. Now he thinks that that's a sign of the stupid, of the incompetent. Dare I say it, he considers going to the gym a sign of the weak. You should be concerned about books, learning. How are you going to deal with the world flexing biceps? Now, of course, he's obviously making a fallacy. And that fallacy is formed by the fact that his sole relationship in life has been a relationship with a book. It's been a relationship with a book or a cell phone or a computer screen. So in other words, he lacks real world interaction so that he can compare his interactions with that computer screen or that book with whether or not it's developing him in the real world. He's lost that. I say to you tonight, for you as men, you need to have access to top 10 cities, and that is not optional. That's mandatory. It is mandatory that if you are a man today, you cannot and you will never be peak value. You can't even leave upper middle class if you don't have 5-star access to the top 10 cities. New York, LA, San Francisco, Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, DC, Houston. And I'm saying top 10, but that's really a euphemism. Look it up. That's really a figure of speech. But if you are a peak value man, you must have 5-star access in those cities. Well, Jason, why is that? Because let's just say, for example, that you were raised in Birmingham, Alabama. Now, Birmingham, Alabama is not a small place necessarily, but it's not a major American city either. It's on the grow. Don't get me wrong. It's on the grow. It's on the make. It's on the rise. That's great. But Birmingham is not a major city. If your definition of success, and remember what I was telling you about before about getting outside your comfort zone and taking a look at the nation as a whole, if your definition of successful is determined by what it would be that would make you successful in Birmingham, Alabama, then you are out of touch. Because the definition of success is a global scale, not a local one. Well, Jason, why does that matter? Let me explain to you exactly why that matters in no uncertain terms. You see, if making $200,000 a year might make you the man in Biloxi, Mississippi, Birmingham, Alabama, Santa Fe, New Mexico, Billings, Montana. It might make you the man there. But if you ever want take a look at that environment and the amenities that it provides. In reality, those amenities are actually very small. The amenities there are actually very modest, very meager. So you see, when you start talking about doing something bigger and better, when you start talking about driving a Porsche 911, when you start talking about those things, then you start realizing, oh, I can't really do that here. So then you start looking at those top 10 cities that I named. And that's when you realize, oh, I might have been hitting it out of the park back in Lafayette. I might have been hitting it out of the park in DeSoto, Texas. I might have been hitting it out of the park in those other places. But now that I've moved to a top 10 city, or at least now that I've spent any time in one, then you realize it's like, oh, it now gives you perspective. It gives you perspective. You realize these folks ain't rolling nothing like us. My $200,000 a year is all right among people who make a median income of $30,000 or $40,000 a year, but I'm not even a player on the board in these other places. Hell, I'm working class. Yo, $200,000, $300,000 a year has got you just making it in New York, LA, Miami. It's got you just making it there. But you'll never get that perspective if you don't actually go these other places and find out, hey, what does my $200,000 a year get me in a place with some real amenities? Jason, what do you mean by that? Let me give you a case in point. Now, don't get me wrong. Homewood Suites is nice and cozy. Do not get me wrong. Homewood Suites is nice and cozy. Folks, can I just keep it real? Ain't no penthouses in Jackson, Mississippi. Ain't dissing nobody. Ain't no penthouses in Jackson, Mississippi. Not gonna find any penthouses in Augusta, Georgia. Not gonna find any penthouses in Fayetteville. No offense. You're not gonna find the G-Wagon dealership in those places. It's not gonna happen. There's a world of difference between where you're from and where you're going. So if you want that kind of access, if you want those kinds of amenities, get up with your $200,000. Get up with your, you'll find it in New Orleans, but I'm naming specific cities because I want you to understand that even if you live in Louisiana, living in my hometown of Shreveport is not going to be enough. You're not really going to encounter any real penthouses unless you go down to New Orleans. Now, if you go down to New Orleans, now you can meet some penthouses in the state of Louisiana. But Shreveport, Monroe, Lafayette, Alexandria, it ain't happening. It's not happening. Little Rock, it's not happening. So I just want you to understand that. I want you to understand that. So that's why having access to a 5-star access to a top 10 city is mandatory so that you don't get confused about where your $200,000 or $300,000 a year income falls in the bigger picture. Folks, as a self-employed person who has traveled this country, don't y'all know Los Angeles will eat up $200,000 like it's nothing. Los Angeles can cost you $1,000 a day. And I'm not even talking about staying in an Excelsior place. Los Angeles can eat up $1,000 a day. And my folks who live there or live near there know I'm telling the truth. I'm not talking about Beverly Hills. I'm not talking about Beverly Hills. Los Angeles will eat up $1,000 a day. Easy. Easy. Hell, Seattle, Washington can eat up $500 a day. Easy. Easily. I'm talking about with no sweat, and I'm talking about with not even a single souvenir to show for your name when you leave. Seattle, Washington will eat up $500 a day like it's nothing. Nothing. I didn't say New York. I'm talking about Seattle. San Diego will eat up $800 a day like it's nothing. Like it's absolutely nothing. There are some cities, no, ma'am, it's not just any city. No, there are certain places in this country, it'll gobble up $1,000 like it's nothing. Like you did nothing at all. I'm talking about when you put together, even if you're just visiting, you put together gas in California, $5 a gallon. For those of us who are from places where you drive, man, it'll eat you alive. It will eat you up. Those of you who live in places that have tolls, if you live in the Dallas Metroplex, you know it's like getting on the Bush Parkway and things, you got tolls. If you live in the state of Florida, my God, there's tolls everywhere. There's tolls all over the state of Florida. Anywhere you want to go, there's a regular road and there's a toll road. And what I'm saying to you is once you go these places, you'll realize real quick, that little old $200,000 that made you think you was balling in your Chevy Tahoe back in Vicksburg, you find out when you got some perspective. Because these other places, the reason I was saying that is because that's what it's going to take if you want to be at the Wilshire Grand. If you want to have a view of Los Angeles like no other, let me go ahead and remind y'all right quick because I'm having the word with you all tonight because I want you to understand what it's like. I've met a bunch, most of y'all in Los Angeles have never actually seen your city. Now, this is just a weird thing to me. When I meet people from Los Angeles, New York's got a lot of fakers and fronters up there. And by that, I mean folks who think they know this city and they really haven't. Most black folk in Los Angeles haven't even been to the observation deck of Los Angeles City Hall. I have. I've been there. But most people who live in Los Angeles haven't been there. They've driven by it. If they had tickets, they went to the courthouse or whatever, but they haven't actually been in there to go see the thing. Now, you want to have a really nice view of Los Angeles? Don't go to the Westin Bonaventure. Don't go there. Please don't go to that hotel across the street from it either. You got to go down the street to the Korean Air Building, also known as the Wilshire Grand. They got the Intercontinental there. And let me tell you, because I've been, you're up on that 67th, 68th, 69th floor. The lobby is on the 70th floor. You got to take the elevator to go all the way up to the lobby. The lobby's on the 70th floor, and then you go down to get to your hotel room. Man, that's you can see all the way to the airport from there. The view isn't beautiful, it's gorgeous. The view is not beautiful, it's gorgeous. When you get off the elevator to the lobby there, the Wilshire Grand, you see like folks, foreigners and things like that. They stand there on the stand there looking out the windows. It's got these big, tall, floor-to-ceiling windows, big, tall things, and you can see everything. You can see everything, and you can see everywhere. You can't get that in Little Rock, Arkansas. You can't get that in East St. Louis. You can't get that in Colliersville. You can't get that in Branson. These are things you simply cannot get. You can't get it in these other places. Fellas, let me tell you, you take a female there, she ain't gonna want to leave. If you take your chick there, she's not gonna want to leave. Okay, but here's the real issue. Does she even know that it's there? Does she even know that it's there? Well, if you're a man who specializes in mastering the luxuries, not the necessities, you know it's there. But does she? Want another one? The Westin downtown Atlanta. If you've been on one of the top floors of the Westin downtown Atlanta, then you know it is terrible. When it rains, it is awful. The clouds are so thick, you'll be on the 60th floor and can't see nothing. I'm being a little facetious, but you get the idea. You'll be on a high floor there and can't see anything. The clouds will be so thick. Now, when they start to clear out, it's gorgeous. You can see the Beltway, depending on what side it is, because it's a round building. You can see either the Beltway, or you can see the CNN building, or you can see the Olympic wheel. Hell, I ain't even talking about going up to the sundial. I don't even mean going up to the sundial. I'm just talking about from your room in the morning. Just leave your curtains open. When you wake up in the morning, when the sun is coming up, you got a panoramic view of downtown Atlanta and the sunrise. You can't get that in Marietta. You can't get that in Decatur. If you aren't in Atlanta, you can't get that. I'm talking about you're so high in the air that for those of you who've been there, you know what I'm talking about. You can, or if you've been to the sundial, that's the top of the thing. You know, that's on certain days, that's above the clouds. On certain days, that's above the clouds. For those of you who've been at the sundial, that's above the clouds. Now, at the Westin in Los Angeles, it isn't because it's not tall enough. But the one in downtown Atlanta, you go to the Sundial restaurant on certain days, you're above the clouds. You're looking down at the clouds. You're seeing them pass by you. It's kind of eerie, actually. It's kind of eerie. You can't get that in Augusta. You can't. You can't get that in College Park. You can't get that in Villa Rica. So your $200,000 might be killing the game in Villa Rica. Go right up the street to Atlanta. Tell me, where are your 5-star amenities in Villa Rica? Yikes. Then you go to Atlanta and you realize how much you don't have. So it's necessary for you to breathe some new air. Find out where the ceiling is, not where you think it is. Competing against your family and friends in the city you grew up in, that's not competing. You need to go to a place where you can see where the ceiling actually is. Where it really is, not what you tell yourself. Oh boy, I don't know if I want to get into this one, but let me tell you tonight, the whole reason for me bringing you here.
Join me, and I will complete your training.
So I can finish your training. Fellas, I want to talk to the fellas right quick. You have been misled over the course of the last 20 years. You thought it was about Mercedes, Benzes, and then more recently, you've been misled into thinking that it is about Bentley Continentals and Rolls Royces. I am here to advise you and inform you tonight, fellas, if you think that the peak of success is driving an exotic car, then you are just as in error as the people who think that a home being their biggest asset means that they actually have an asset. Those of you with some sense know that if your home is your biggest asset, you don't really have an asset. Well, if you think that an exotic or luxury car is the peak, then you don't understand. Welcome to the new world. Welcome to the new world. Fellas, it ain't about the status symbol is not luxury cars anymore. Luxury cars are an entry-level status symbol. Entry level. Today, for those of you who've been to Miami, Virginia Beach, Ocean, any of these other places where you can put the boats out in the water, y'all know damn well it's about boats and planes now. If you're in Las Vegas, everybody got an airstrip. Dallas Metroplex, airstrips all over the place. Airstrips all over the place. Now, let me take you a little bit further. For those of you, if you may not know very much about planes, and it's okay if you don't, that's perfectly fine. But let me tell you, a plane will run, I'm talking about just a regular twin engine. I'm talking about props, not even a jet, not even jets, just props. Just a regular, was it like a Cessna? I think a 310 has 2 engines on it. Just one of those could, in good condition, if you want a 40-year-old one, it'll be $100,000 to buy a 40-year-old one. Then you got to make sure that it's had its maintenance, that it's had its annual checkups, because you got to do that. You got to make sure that its safety record is up to par. You got to make sure it's TBO, time between overhauls. Make sure that they've kept up with that, because if you buy it right when it's time for overhaul, get ready for a multi-$1,000 bill. And by multi-thousand, I mean 25, 30, 40. These will be huge expenses. Huge expenses. So I'm talking about to buy a 40-year-old plane could run you $100,000 for a 40-year-old. You want a 30-year-old Cessna, Piper, something like that? Get ready to drop $200,000 for a 30-year-old plane, for a 30-year-old plane. But you know what? Don't take that too badly, because if you want to get something modest, 26-foot boat, 45-foot boat, a 52-footer, get ready to drop $300,000 to $500,000. And that's baseline. That's baseline. Get ready to drop $300,000 to $500,000 if you're going to get a boat and get out there in Miami and get on the water. Get ready to drop it, because that's what it's going to be. Yeah, a lot of y'all didn't think about that. Wait a minute. Just anywhere from 30 to 57 feet could be $300,000, $500,000? Yes. Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yes. You mean it costs as much as a house? Yep. And those are the cheap ones. Those are the cheap ones. Do you want to add other things that make you a star out there? Do you want to add a pool? Get ready to drop another $50,000, $70,000. Do you want to have a grill on it and a deck? Get ready to drop another $25,000. So believe me, for some of these things that you might think are simple things, you could end up spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm not talking about some super luxury yacht. I'm just talking about some of the little things. I'm not even talking about something that could land a plane on it. You would need something really big for that. You need a huge ship for that. I'm talking about something that can comfortably accommodate 10 people. Something that can comfortably accommodate 10 people on an afternoon in Los Angeles. On an afternoon in Miami. On an afternoon in Virginia Beach, just on an afternoon. I'm talking about something for just for comfortably accommodate you and 8 or 10 of your friends. You're going to drop at least $300,000 for something like that. So what I'm telling you is that, yeah, when you think about it for just a few moments, your old definitions of a status symbol are obsolete. Well, Jason, why would you say that that's obsolete? Let me put this in perspective for you. Let me put this in ultimate perspective for you here. Let's just say that you and your woman, y'all jump in the G-Wagon. Follow me, follow me, follow me, follow me. You and your woman jump in the G-Wagon. Her friends are getting ready to go to Ruth's Chris or something. Their Nissan Pathfinder or whatever the case may be. Her friends are getting ready to go there. You and your woman jump in the G-Wagon. Y'all start driving. Now, I want you to imagine at the end of that trip, you get out and you're at the marina. She's getting out of the G-Wagon, getting ready to put on her bathing suit so y'all can get on the boat. I'm saying boat, but you get the idea. Y'all getting ready to hit the water. Her friends want to take a G-Wagon to the movie theater. The movie theater does not enhance the value of that car, is what I'm telling you. The movie theater is not enhancing the value of the car. Taking it to the marina does. You know what else enhances the value of it? If you got a Bentley Continental and you pull up at the airplane hangar. Everybody else is going in the airport to go stand in line at TSA. Or to go sit and wait for the pilots to open the doors to the plane. Or probably waiting for their plane to show up. What if you're one of those people that's like, yeah, I drive my Bentley to the airplane hangar. Do you get the difference now? Do you see the difference now? Fellas, you need to take a look at the women. The women are feeling what I'm saying. The women understand this. Do you get the difference now? What are we going to the airplane hangar for? We can fly down to Jamaica. We can fly down to Barbados. Hell, can we sneak into Cuba? I don't know. We're flying down to St. Croix. We're flying down to the Virgin Islands. Just remember that. Think about that for a few moments. What I'm saying is what I told you from the beginning, that your woman is a barometer of your level of success. As a man, you pay for the luxuries, not the necessities, because that is what enhances your value of life, including if you got a female in the family, that enhances the value of it. So if you got a woman and she's got the red bottoms and the Fendi bag and the Prada dress, and she's pulling up in the Mercedes Maybach, what I'm saying is everything should match, including the destination. Everything should match, including the destination. Everything should match. W1 Chucky Woo, if you can't attract women who value you, then you haven't been listening to the beginning of the program. If that's a problem for you, is attracting females who value you as a person, if that's a problem that you feel you have to vent or say something about, that's the whole reason you should be here just listening. I already covered about mental and financial competence. To the fellows sitting up here talking about, planes, private planes crash. Major airlines crash too. All you've been in is a commercial airline. You don't even fly privately. You shouldn't speak on things you don't do. But just understand, those who can do, those who can't talk. Those who can do, those who can't start running their mouths. But what they won't do is show you their pilot's license. Now that they won't do. What they won't do is show you their Bentley or their G-Wagon key fob. Now that they won't do. So what I'm saying is that if you haven't mastered these skill sets already, it's time for you to learn. I also want you to understand something else. Fellas, this isn't just about women. People don't respect cowardice. People don't respect those kinds of cowardly statements. Well, Jason, what do you mean by their cowardly statements? You're not competitive. That's the issue. Making statements like you all just made here, just understand those are the statements of the defeated males. Those are not statements of competitive males. Competitive males don't sit around talking about what can't be done, what he can't control, what he's not in charge of. Competitive males don't talk that garbage. Competitive males talk about what they're getting done, about what they're doing, about how they're going to make it happen. I don't know what it is that makes you guys sit up here and think that there are any people, male, female, or children, who are looking to hear you whine and complain about what you can't do. 4-year-olds can tell you what they can't do. You sitting up here thinking you're impressing everybody. Watch me type this. You can't do. That would be a waste of money. See? Why would you even say that? Now you got that hung on your name. No disrespect, but do you think a woman's gonna value a fellow with an attitude like that? What are you giving her to value? You most scared than she is. You're more afraid than she is. You haven't even left the hangar talking about, the plane might crash. You haven't even spent the money. I'd rather save for retirement. She won't value it. Man, are you sure? You sure that communicates and conveys confidence? Because I don't think it does. I don't think it does. See, a lot of you fellas out here, you whine and pitch and moan about the so-called dope boys and Pookie and whatnot. Them fellas there don't spend a bunch of time talking about what they can't do. The females have a choice between a nerd, and I mean that respectfully. I'm a nerd myself, but let me just tell you something. I'm not a coward. Females respect a man who's got courage about him. You think that your alleged higher income than Pookie makes you more desirable. A woman has no use for a well-paid coward. Let's talk about some manhood for a moment. A woman has no use and no respect for a well-employed coward. A woman is not looking to get booed up with a well-paid runner. She gonna grab your money and then go lay up with a fella with some guts. She'll go take her vacations with him because she feels like she's actually with a man, and thus she feels it is time well spent. A woman knows time with a cowardly nigga ain't time well spent. I said it.
And deal with it, nigga.
A woman would rather spend a vacation with a Pookie who got some guts about him than some well-paid Poindexter who's running from every damn thing. She ain't trying to have that. Fellas, y'all need to understand. You spend so much time living in your bubbles with these delusions of grandeur, telling yourselves, I'm better than those fellas over there, and you haven't become rounded. You've been living in your own little canister you've been in. All you can see is the little hole at the top. And then how you satisfy yourself is, well, I'm better than them. You don't actually want to do a point-to-point comparison. You're probably not going to like how this goes. A woman has no use for a male who starts his sentences talking about what he can't do and what he won't do. A woman has no use for that. Understand, she's got no use for you. That doesn't help her. So recognize what we're talking about here. Going forward, fellas, the status symbol, the sign, the mark of excellence. Man, if you got an exotic car, and I'm talking about Bentley, Aston Martin, Porsche 911, Lamborghini, I'm talking about all of those. Even if it's brand new. Congratulations. But I just thought you should know you're what we call high value. You are not peak value. Today, fellas, it's a brand new frontier. It's a brand new frontier. Now, I want to take this a little bit further. Because I ain't just looking to spit the game. I don't just discuss peak value men. I build peak value men. So let me go ahead and hit y'all with a little bit more game here. I've been in touch with some cats. I've been in touch with some fellas. We're discussing some different things. And let me tell you something right now, guys, to the men listening, your favorite rapper, you want to talk about something that gives you a competitive edge, your favorite rapper can drive a Bentley. Can your favorite rapper pilot a boat? Your favorite rapper has a driver's license. Does your favorite rapper have a sailing license? Does your favorite rapper have a pilot's license? Your girlfriend has a driver's license. No, let me go ahead and make you feel self-conscious for a minute. Your broad has a driver's license. Your single mom got a driver's license. The chicks down there at the WIC office have a driver's license. You might be dating a rich woman. You might be one of these fellas in LA. You might be dating a chick, man. Let me tell you, she's papered up, my nigga. She's good. And by that, I'm talking about she making $500,000, $1 million a year. Let me tell y'all, fellas, y'all gotta think differently. All you gotta do is tell her, well, congratulations on your $1 million a year. You got a driver's license. I'm just curious. Do you got a pilot's license? Yeah, you got a driver's license. I got a pilot's license. I'll beat you across the country every day of the year. Yeah, I'm just saying. For you fellas here who want to know what gives you true status, even in a situation where the female might make more money than you, I'm trying to hip you to something. You focusing on necessities. Driver's licenses are necessities. This other stuff I'm talking about are the luxuries. And skill sets are a luxury. Anybody can get on a plane. How many of you can fly one? Well, we'll get to that there too. Because what I would like to do tonight is I want to put together something here, something different that changes the perspective and trajectory of everything you all are doing here for everyone who listens to this program or may wish to listen to it here. I've helped you all get your CDLs. I've helped you to get your Class A's. I've helped you to get your IT certifications. I've helped you to get your HVACs. I've helped you to get any number of things. Now I would like to look into us pioneering something new. We are not the place of the affluent or the well-off or even the high value. We are the place of the peak value. So I've had a number of you fellas who are actually pilots. I've had a couple of you who are flight instructors. And I would like to get together a list of flight instructors or reliable schools across the country. And for those who would like to get their pilot's license, I would like that to become a normal part of the culture of what we do. Black people are woefully underrepresented when it comes to boating licenses, marine licenses, pilot's licenses. We are woefully underrepresented. You got folks out here breaking their arms, patting themselves on the back because they drive a Bentley or a Mercedes. And what I'm telling you is when you go to Miami on the weekends, ain't nobody able to flex about your Bentley. Your Bentley can only drive from the Hard Rock Cafe back to the hotel. It's all about who can get on the water. For those of you who've been in Miami on New Year's night, and I have been, y'all know to get down, the fireworks go off, the police have to come chase the people off the 2nd Street Bridge. They gotta go chase them off the damn bridge. As soon as midnight hits, they start piling up on the bridge. The motorcycle cops gotta come and chase them off of it. But everything else, there's boats out on the bay. There's boats out on the water. When you go on the weekends, and I'm just naming Miami because it's the most famous, it's far from the only one. And what I'm telling you is that going forward here, you'll see a couple of black folk on jet skis, but that's all you'll see. You don't really see, there aren't really any black folk pulling up in $300,000, $500,000, $800,000 boats. And remember, those are entry level. You don't really have that. You don't really have that. Leon, what I'm telling you, dude, is y'all got to understand what the standard actually is. What that log cabin that was, your grandfather had your great-grandmama perfectly happy in a log cabin. Your great-grandmama was like, this is the bomb. Your grandmama thought one of those factory houses that they used to build after World War II, she thought that was the bomb. Your mama thought one of those little houses in the suburbs, she thought that was it. Well, guess what? Not a single one of you thinks that that's acceptable today. But that's what your great-grandfather, your grandfather, and your fathers grew up in. And to them, it was perfectly fine. But to you today, that would be miserly. That would be meager. that would be unacceptable to you. Why is that? Because the standard has changed. Your grandfather's 1974 Ford pickup truck, man, that was the workhorse for him. Even if you could buy one new, you would never imagine getting one. You'd be like, no, it's missing too many features and amenities. We got better engines, better transmissions, better safety controls. There's no way in the world if you could buy a brand spanking new 1974 vehicle, there's no way in the hell you would pass that up. I mean, that you would take that and pass up a 2024 vehicle. You'd never do it. If you are, you're mentally deranged. Get out of here. This program isn't for you. You need to go take your Valium. The standards have changed, fellas. The standards have changed. What I'm saying is that what you used to define as the top of the food chain, top of the ceiling, what you used to consider that to be has changed. I am not saying that these cars are not status symbols. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that they are entry-level status symbols. If you want to know where the real, understand something, there's stuff that is available that blows your Bentley out of the water. Literally. Your woman might consider it cool to go driving in your Bentley. She is never going to say no when you say you want to go put the boat on the water. She's never going to say no. She might turn you down for the Bentley. She is not turning down the boat in May, June, July, August, September. She's not turning that down. Y'all can look on the water from coast to coast. The boats and the yachts got plenty chicks on them in their swimsuits. They not turning it down. What I'm telling you is recognize there's levels to this. And if you truly want to understand now, if you still want to be behind, if you still want to rely on obsolete standards, then keep talking about your Mercedes and your BMW 7 Series. If you really want to be behind, then you just keep talking to other working class people or poor people and go regale them about your Mercedes S-Class and your BMW 7 Series. Perfectly fine cars, perfectly luxurious cars. What I'm telling you is that you're missing whole parts of the story and the equation. You're missing whole parts of it. You all need to know when you go to Los Angeles, they thinking different. When you go to Dallas, they thinking different. I'm telling y'all where we're going. Most of you, you know what the real problem is with most of y'all today? Most of you have been informed by television. If you didn't see something in popular culture that was marketed towards you, then you don't consider it to be something that you actually can do. Well, Jason, what do you mean by that? Most of your rappers sit up here talking about the liquors they want to drink. Most of them talk about the liquors they want to drink. And I don't even drink alcohol, but for those of you who do, y'all know that the liquor that your rappers talk about is rot gut. Y'all know the liquors that they talk about are trash. And y'all know it. You would never listen to a rapper and take his cue on what the liquor is you should be drinking. I mean, every once in a while they might mention Hennessy or Bacardi or something like that. But most of that other stuff, you're like, this is garbage. For those of you who drink, y'all go to the club and it's like, man, look here. Patron. For those of you who've been to a club, how many folks sit there at the club literally ordering Patron? How many of them actually order it? Most of y'all know, you really don't even do that. Not really. There'll be a few people who get some, but for the most part, folks don't really fool with it like that. Okay, so if your rappers are out of touch with what really qualifies for your alcohol, don't y'all understand they are equally out of touch for your cars being a status symbol? They come to black folk and talk about cars. They go to Asians and white folk and talk about planes and boats. They come to us talking about cars. They go to these other people talking about jets and yachts. And I'm not just talking about one time. It's a steady diet of it. These other folks have a different perspective. What's offered to them and given to them is different. When you go on YouTube channels, for example, a lot of these white channels are the ones that deal with boating. Now, how many black folk here YouTube has spontaneously suggested a boating channel to you? Or an aeronautics channel? I'm talking about piloting a plane, not just watching people take off. I'm talking about a channel that goes in depth about steering boats and having boating licenses and piloting airplanes. How many of y'all does YouTube do that for? Yeah, it kind of makes you think YouTube is racist, doesn't it? Now, there are channels that have hundreds of thousands of subscribers that deal with boating, on the water boating, marine rules, maritime law, piloting, and yet YouTube doesn't suggest those channels to any of us. Did you get that? YouTube doesn't suggest those channels to us. Now, it'll suggest Joe Rogan, and it'll suggest one of your rappers without you even asking. YouTube will steer you to hip hop and twerking without you asking. But what it won't do is tell you, oh, let me take you to this channel so you can see what it's like piloting a plane and some of the things folks who do that do. Man, they got whole communities for that. You talking about cars and coffee. They talking about planes in Paris. Do you understand that? You talking about cars and coffee. I'm trying to tell you where the ceiling is. I'm trying to tell you where the ceiling is. Fellas, let me tell you, do I need to remind you one more time? Let me tell you again. You got a chick and you got a pilot's license, man, any dude after that's a downgrade. The first 3 or 4 times you let her take off, she's going to be like a kid. She's going to be like a little kid. The first couple of times she takes off with you, she's going to be like a child. She is going to be giddy as hell. And the first couple of times you can take her somewhere and she can go from one airport to another and land, and you all don't have to go through security or whatever. Like, you can fly out to Vegas. You can fly out to Denver. You can fly up to Minneapolis. You can fly out to Dallas. You can fly out to Miami. You can fly out to Pensacola. Man, if that's the way that she lives with you, if that's how she lives, tell me, what do you think's going through her head if y'all ever break up? She's going to be on the next fella's ass. You know, you should think about getting a pilot's license. I hope he doesn't put 2 and 2 together. Hey, show me some pictures of your ex. I thought I saw some aircraft wings on his shoulder. Number 1, you ought to call yourself number 0. No offense, but all that whiny ass beta male whining, I'm just saying, mama's boys this program is not for mama's boys. This is not for women. This is for you. Women are just a barometer. Other people are just a barometer. I explained that before. Number 0. This isn't about enhancing women. This is about enhancing you. But then again, you got to be a man first. I know this is kind of scary. Some of y'all are holding your mama's hands. Do I do that? This is not about the women. This is about you. If you ever achieve manhood, first you must escape puberty, but if you ever achieve manhood, this is about you and your capabilities. This is about what you're able to do. Dude, if you don't want no females in the plane with you, that's okay. It's plenty of dudes out here who'll go up there with you. Damn. Bruh. Okay, y'all, what he's saying is he wants some dudes to go up with him. He thinks I'm hating on it. Bruh. Okay, go ahead and get the plane. You can take as many fellas up there as you want to. Folks, I ain't hating nothing. He's like, hey, I need some, Jason, I don't want to be feeding these women sense of entitlement. Okay, you need some dudes up there with you. That's what he's saying, y'all. He's saying he wants some men's. All right. I ain't hating on him. He said, bring on the men. I don't want to be enhancing these women. Where the men at? The men will appreciate it. So, fellas, number one is looking for some number 2s, 3s, and 4s. So to all the fellas who would like to go flying up in his airplane, because he doesn't want to give these entitled women nothing. No, you know what? I think he's perfectly right. So all the big strong men's, all the big strong men's, line up. Line up. He's ready for all of y'all to get into his Ford Bronco with him. Let's line up all the big, strong men's. And I'm very glad to hear that. It just leaves more women for the rest of us. I ain't mad. Hey, brother, you just leaving more females for the rest of us. Am I supposed to be upset? Because you saying, I don't want to be around them females. Girls are icky. Ma'am, slide this way. Slide this way. Brother, I ain't mad at you. Just leave them where they at. Leave them where they at. Yeah, y'all, he said, Jason, you wrong. We need to bring some men. Okay, well, all right. Brother, to each his own. To each his own. You live in the lifestyle. I'm not hating on you. You live in the lifestyle. But to the other fellas, if they need some motivation, just need some understanding, it's plenty of men. You can pick up men any day of the year. The women are a little bit hard to get. But you can pick up a man any day of the year, brother. If you having trouble getting the men in your plane, and to be totally honest, I'm not the channel for that. No hate. I'm really not the channel to decipher how you would make that happen. Well, if you want to get a plane packed with men, yeah, I don't know about that one. Put a want ad, Craigslist, I don't know. But for everybody else, this is for you. Number one is looking for some males, but for everybody else, this is for you. Last but not least, here is a simple reminder to you. If your house is your biggest asset, then you ain't got no assets. Number one is so desperate to have my attention. It's just, if he wants to pay for it, he can knock himself out. Number one is so desperate. He's feeling in his feelings here. He is in his feelings. He is very, very upset. He's, oh, you do that right there. Come on now. I don't understand you right there. I like my job at Costco. Nigga, I'm not telling you gotta quit your job at Costco. I didn't say that. He's one of them niggas in New Jersey by the gas, pumps your gas for you, bro. I ain't mad at you. Do your thing. Do your thing, bro. Don't talk to me. Go load up your Buick with as many men as you want. Do your thing. Do your thing, bro. I need a daddy. Bro, I can't really get in all that, but if your house is your biggest asset, do you realize how damn far behind you are? Let me explain something, y'all. If you are a man making moves today, I can understand wanting a home base, but I gotta tell y'all, most self-employed people aren't really in a single place like that. You're not really in a single place like that. And your house shouldn't be your biggest asset. You should have assets that are bigger than your home. If your home is your biggest asset, then where's your net worth when the housing market goes down? What you're telling us is that your net worth is contingent on the housing market. That in order for you to be classified as a millionaire, you gotta have, your house has to do it. It's not your income that does it. and you don't have anything else of value that you built on, so all you have is your house, which is something that you can't really liquidate. So if your house is your biggest asset, look, that was okay for your grandfathers. Your grandfather wasn't trying to get a boat or a plane. Fellas, I'm telling you what it is. They wasn't trying to do that. They wasn't trying to do that. The housing market is going to be messed up for the rest of our lives. It just is what it is, man. You're not going to get around that. So for those of you who are telling yourselves, well, look here, I ain't got to worry about that. How bad could it possibly be here, man? It can get bad as hell if you're not looking out for it. It can get bad as hell. So if your house is your biggest asset, if you are not invested in other things, if you don't have a certified financial planner, if you're just trying to make it off your pension, if you're just trying to swing it off your disability, if you're just trying to make it off of your settlement, what I'm telling you is you are not operating at peak efficiency. You are working class. You just making it. This is how you end up one of those old rickety people waddling your way to Florida one of these years. That's how you end up one of them. But you don't get to make it any further than that. It doesn't happen that way. That's another thing that's always gotten me. How the hell can you be sitting here and waiting until you can no longer enjoy it? Man, you should do this stuff while you're still young enough to enjoy it. How the hell is it you're out here and you can't do any of this stuff because you're not young enough to enjoy it anymore? There's a bunch of y'all, that's where you're at. You can't really, you're going to wait until you get so old and you're so wore out. And it's like, man, what the hell? I can't even make the stairs. That's why I'm telling you right now, if you want to know what the difference is, we need to update your files. So what I would like to do here for everyone except number one is on a mission. He's on a man mission. So number one, everybody except you got some men's to go look up and associate with. But for everyone else here, what I would like to do is first and foremost, I would like us to start exploring the very real possibility of an aeronautics culture here. So if you are, for those of you who if you do pilot training, or if you work for one of these schools, and those are the two criteria I'm saying that you're directly involved, or if you've gotten your pilot's license, not you're on your way to it, I'm saying what it is, don't let the ADHD kick in. If you have got your pilot's license, if you're a pilot flight training instructor, or if you work at a flight school, and I don't mean the damn janitor, I want you to send me an email at handlethebusiness@yahoo.com. That email again is handlethebusiness@yahoo.com. And I want the subject line, pilot's license. Let me say again, if you have your pilot's license, and I mean it's active, not you had it and lost it. If you have a pilot's license, if you are a flight instructor, or if you work at a flying school, send me an email at handlethebusiness@yahoo.com with the subject line, pilot's license. I want to hear from you. And there are other people who want to hear from you too. You see, one of the things I left off of here was that conversations between folks like us go differently. We don't talk about the same things that everybody else talks about. We don't speak about the same things that everyone else does. We talk about different things. We talk about things that elevate you, stuff that you think is just reserved and resigned for the dominant society and non-black folk. And what I'm saying is you've been turned into a mentally handicapped individual. These other folks have left us behind. We're still stuck on things that require a driver's license, and everyone can get one. All the folk you all talk about and admire on a daily basis, man, they don't even talk about cars like that. You know why? Because they've got it on a whole new level. And I'm not saying that you need to be able to go and buy Jeff Bezos' super yacht. I didn't say that, dummy. But what I am saying is that we shouldn't be monosyllabic. Look it up. We need to be able to speak more than one language. We need to be able to speak in more than one syllable. We should be able to speak some multisyllabic words. We need to be able to speak about more than just cars. There's a whole world out there of mobility and independence. There's a whole world of it. And we've been sitting on the sidelines staring, or worse, you have a paper bag or a plastic bag over your head and you're completely ignorant and oblivious to it. You go to these cities and you see these planes take off all the time. You never think about the fact you should be on one or in one. You've never thought about looking at yourself that way. You find it very easy. Well, let's just turn this over to white people. Let them take care of it, as opposed to something that develops your value. These are things that develop your value, that develop your ability, that give you a different vocabulary. I told you about this before. To the fellas, think about this right here. How much more interesting of a person are you when you can sit and talk to a female and tell her you got your pilot's license? You should already know where the conversation is going to go. When you say you got your pilot's license, the very next thing she's going to ask you is, oh, where do you fly to? Man, look here. If you can't pull her after that, you might want to consider joining number one and approaching some men. That might be more your speed. That might be more where you need to be. Women might just be too tough for you. You might want to go and keep it easy and just go grab some dudes. I'm not trying to stress you. I'm really not. But what I'm saying here, fellas, is I'm trying to tee it up for you as best I can. And I understand you don't really have these conversations in a real world way. When you go to a YouTube channel, you'll have some jackass sit up here and try to impress you with their McLaren or try to impress you with their G-Wagon. And don't get me wrong, that's cute and everything. But by the same token, what I'm trying to impress on you tonight is that's not the top of the food chain. That's not the top of the ladder. Man, there's levels above that. You haven't hit the ceiling yet. Yep, there's stuff out there you haven't seen. There's stuff out there you haven't seen and stuff you haven't done. Why would you stop at a car, no matter how nice it is, if you have the option of something else? Why would you stop there? Why would you stop there? Why would you quit there? Why not round out your abilities? Why not prove to yourself? Now, look, if you're perfectly fine living like a hermit, knock yourself out. I'm not here to drag you out of your cave. You stay right there where you are. But to the folks who are like, hey, Jason, I'm competitive. I'm trying to be valuable at every level. I'm trying to be resourceful and competitive and valuable at every level. I'm having a conversation with you here tonight that facilitates that. I'm trying to have a conversation with you here tonight that facilitates that. However, you might disagree. You might disagree. Therefore, the telephone lines are now open. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Your personal access code to the only program that updates your vocabulary, updates your files, and updates your mentality. I'm just letting you all know what the standards are now. If you sitting around here today talking about, man, look here, one day I'm going to be playing and got that BMW 7 Series. You like the fellas from the 70s with the feather hat and the aquarium boots. Man, look here. I mean, you might have a fly pair of them. I just want you to know time has moved on. The world has moved on. There are other options. There are other options. When you go to New York, on the Hudson, yeah, you can get on a ferry or you can have your own boat. You can get on a ferry or you can get your own boat. That, understand something, it has value when it's actually an option. It has value when it's actually an option. You want to talk about upgrading people. Folks, upgrading people, a part of that is being able to give them experiences that they could never have. That's what I mean by you take care of the luxuries. Upgrading your kids, your woman, your family. Key to that is taking them places they can't go, showing them things they can't see, giving them experiences that they cannot achieve on their own. How many of us are desirous and working at that? How many of us are pursuing that? How many of us are working at excelling at that? Giving an entire rounded experience. Having the ability to do more than one thing, to go and see these places. You sit up here and you look at the water and you see the boats. It never occurred to you to possibly be on one. It never occurred to you to possibly be the captain of one. It never occurred to you that there's more to do at the beach than just sit on the beach and let the waves go under your feet. It never occurred to you that there's more to do in the ocean than just let the water go around your feet. That never occurred to you? If it didn't, that's a shame. But it should be an opportunity for you to learn and to evolve. All I'm saying is this is an opportunity for you to learn and an opportunity to evolve. But those choices are up to you. The telephone number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Your personal access code to the program that all your favorite YouTubers love to hate watch. We don't discuss high-value men. We build high-value men, and then we help them become peak value men. Want to send a special shout out here to everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program on PayPal, CashApp, Super Chat, Venmo. Thank you very much here for your support tonight. We appreciate that. We're going to go ahead and check on the phone lines here. The number is 646-787-1933. Let me get caller from area code 256. You're on live with The Business. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, my name is Alyssa, and I'm calling from San Diego, California.
Hello, Melissa from San Diego. What's on your mind?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
What's on your mind? Melissa is working on the English language. What is on your mind, Melissa?
Oh, so I wanted to call to first say that I have been in a situation where I have dated guys that own planes before, and this particular guy, he owned a plane, a Piper. It was a Piper Arrow, and at the time I was taking flight lessons. Flying out of Atlanta Brownfield Airport. And I think it's great that, guys can pick up that skill and learn it. But honestly, it didn't work out with that guy. I turned that guy down. He was interested, asked me out, turned him down. And honestly, I don't want to say prefer, but I would have been more interested in just a regular average guy, even though he owned a plane. I just think that
Okay,
some of the standards are just really high.
What does the plane have
you're
to do?
presenting.
What does the plane have to do with anything? What's your point? What does the plane have to do? How is that the problem?
Because I think that you were proposing to men that they should own these things, right? In order
I'm
to attract
suggesting
women.
I'm suggesting to them that if you want to know what is higher value than cars and suits, that there's another level above that adds even more value. What you have not done, I'll ask you again. How is it that the plane was the problem with that guy?
No, the plane was not the problem.
Okay, stop talking. That is what you said. You literally just said, I would rather have dated a, quote, regular guy. And by the way, that's the height of silliness, Melissa, to say that. I would rather date a regular guy who didn't have a plane. So you are saying that the plane is somehow specifically the problem. You're the one who mentioned that. So I'm going to ask again. How is it that the plane was a contributing factor to what you didn't like about him and that you'd rather have a guy without one?
So maybe I should rephrase that. So the plane was not the problem. However, when I'm listening to the message, it's coming across like, okay, in order to be high value or to reach this peak, you have to own these items, right?
Certainly you should have the capacity to. Absolutely. Or you can be a regular guy. By the way, Melissa, how much money does the regular guy that you would prefer to have been with instead of that fella, how much money a year does that regular guy make?
So this particular guy, he's
ma'am, let me try this again. Okay, the regular guy. You said I would rather date a regular guy who didn't have a plane. How much money does that? Ma'am, we did not talk over the host. You had your chance to speak. I'm going to clarify because you're slow. How much money does that regular guy who doesn't own a plane make?
So the current guy probably makes about like $200,000.
Okay. Now, he makes $200,000 a year, ma'am. He makes $200,000 a year living in San Diego.
Yes.
Yeah. I think you were trying to tell us that. I think you were trying to say something to us, but he makes $200,000 a year living in San Diego. How old is this regular? Yes. How old is the regular guy who doesn't own a plane?
31.
Does he have any children?
No.
How long have you two been dating? I didn't say talking. I mean, how long have you two been dating?
For 6 months.
Yeah.
And
is he black?
Say, I guess
ma'am, is he black?
Regular. I'm sorry?
Is he black?
Yes, he is.
I find that difficult to believe. But
why?
Because the person I'm on the phone talking to does not inspire confidence, quite frankly. But you know what? I'll let you have that one. However, I am curious. Do you have any children?
I do not.
And on a scale of 1 to 10, even numbers only, what would the men, not the women, but the men of San Diego rate you at?
They would probably rate me at about a 10. I would rate myself at about an 8.
Okay, I'm very glad to hear that you're a 10, because a 10 is a universal rating. 10s are 10s around the world, not just in one place. So if the men of Southern California would rate you as a Southern California 10, that means that you are among the universally prettiest people on the planet. So I would like to invite you to get on Zoom for me, because there's also one thing about 10s and 8s. 10s and 8s are never afraid to show the world that they are a 10 or an 8. Never. Now, only a 4 that's lying about being an 8 or a 10 would have an issue with that. But 10s and 8s are always ready to show up and show out. So I would like to invite you to get on Zoom for me, Melissa, so that we can all see this California San Diego 10 who was able to get a regular guy who makes $200,000 a year, we would all like to see this California San Diego 10.
I'm not able to get on Zoom right now.
Okay, then you're a liar. I'll pay you $50. Get on Zoom.
I'm not able to get on.
You're a liar. I'll pay you $100. Get on Zoom. You're lying.
I can't, but I just really
I'll
wanted to
pay
give
you
my thoughts.
$200. You're a liar. Get on Zoom.
I cannot.
Okay,
I'm just in a
then
place where I can't do that right
here's
now.
what you need to do. The fellow who had the plane left you where you were for a reason. And no, there is no $200,000 a year regular guy. Just be honest with folks. You're a typical 6. You couldn't make it in one area, and you wound up getting left behind. And that's the way it works. Now you're fantasizing about something you cannot have. If you actually become the part and stop pretending to be the part, you wouldn't have to say silly things and embarrass yourself like you did tonight. Because there's no such thing as a California 10 that is afraid to show the world that they're a 10. So you've already proven you're lying, and that doesn't do any good. All you're doing is making the guy with the airplane look very, very smart. Why in the world would he extend all that expense for a female who's a liar in a fantasy world? So, baby, if you didn't qualify for it, you know why you didn't qualify. Get your weight up, not your hate up. Well, I mean, not that size 12 or something. And she does sound a little husky on this phone. I will say that. She does sound a bit buoyant. No offense. I'm not being insulting. No offense. But San Diego, California 10, no. Let's not do that. By the way, you said you were going to flight school. Did you ever finish?
No, I didn't finish.
Why am I not surprised? Why did you go to flight school if you weren't going to finish?
Honestly, at the time, I was just really trying to take up a hobby. I wasn't,
So let me get this straight.
It was just really recreation.
So let me get this straight.
I'm sorry?
You couldn't make it as a pilot, and you couldn't make it with a pilot either.
I wasn't trying to get with the pilot. I didn't want to date him. He wanted to date me.
Ma'am, you were the one dating him. So you sound very silly right now. You were the one dating him. It doesn't really matter who approached whom. You took him up on his offer. Do you think that what you just said makes you sound like somehow he's desperate or something? He made the offer. You were obviously desperate enough to accept it. So he found the right one. I think what you said makes sense. You need to be with a regular guy, not a fellow who's actually going somewhere. You need to be with a regular guy who does regular things because, no offense, you're just a regular average chick. You're not special. You're not extraordinary. You're not a 10. Stop lying. You're not a 10. You're an average chick. That's fine. You're a basic chick. That's cool. You need a basic dude so that you don't feel intimidated by exceptional men. Because what you've proven is you're insulted and intimidated by exceptional men. An average guy that doesn't intimidate you, you'll get along better with him. That's all I'm saying. No offense, no shade. Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. I mean, look, she just needs a regular dude who works at 7-Eleven. She needs a regular dude who works at 7-Eleven. On Zoom here, Taharko, you have 5 seconds to have your camera on for us here. Zoom, the link is at the top of the chat for those who want to get on Zoom. The telephone number is also on the screen. If you are on Zoom, you do get priority. However, you do need to have your microphone and your camera on for us there. So you definitely need to do that. Also, a big shout out here to Kwame Kirkland and W1 Chucky Woo in the super chat, and everyone else who has contributed to tonight's program on PayPal, Cash App, Super Chat, Venmo, everything else. Thank you very much for your support. Okay, Taharko has been abducted. Therefore, he will not be joining us. Let me ask you all a question right here, right quick. Let me ask you a question. Why do you all think she lied like that? Why do you all think she lied? I want you to give me your honest opinions about this. Why do you think she called me up and lied like that? Why do you think that she called into a program with other grown people to try to tell us that this fellow who could do some exceptional things, that somehow, I'd rather have a guy who didn't? Why didn't she just say, I don't qualify for a fellow like that, and that's intimidating? Now, that would have been better. It would have been actually speaking honestly, and it would have been something you can help her with. Why in the world didn't she just say that instead? Instead, she's trying to get comfort for her lack of ability and her deficiencies, instead of saying, I stepped my game up. Let me be very, very clear. A man who's stepping his game up doesn't have any room or tolerance for a female who's not stepping hers up. He's not looking for that. A man who is evolving is not looking for a female who is stagnated. I was going to flight school. Did you actually finish? Not really. Oh, that sounds familiar now, doesn't it? Imagine if he had had the same ethic. He can go to flight school, he just can't finish it. Imagine if he had the same ethic. Now, I want to be clear here. What I'm saying here tonight, this is, to some folks, this is outside the wheelhouse, because we're not usually accustomed to having these kind of conversations. We're not usually accustomed to discussing these kind of things. This isn't the kind of stuff you hear on a regular basis. You usually hear something different. You don't hear folks talking about the kind of things that we say. This is the kind of discussion that you hear elsewhere, and that's why things turn out radically different. I'm having a conversation with you that you don't have all the time. I'm having a discussion that you don't have all the time. Black folk get together and you can discuss smaller things. They discuss shoes. Hell, some of them discuss cars. But what about some of these other things? Yeah, you might like driving, but I mean, I've been in more than a few airplanes and some private ones. It's a different experience. Definitely going out on the water is a different experience. And we don't discuss these things. So folk get together and discuss their favorite rappers doing it. You know what they don't discuss? They don't discuss themselves doing it. They don't discuss themselves doing it. They don't discuss themselves living a different life, changing their life, changing who they are, becoming something bigger. They don't discuss themselves doing it. They'd rather sit back and watch somebody else live it. What the hell is the benefit of watching somebody you don't know experience a life and you sitting on the sideline? What's the point and the benefit of that? What do you gain by watching someone else live that life? What is exactly you're gaining? I submit to you that you're actually regressing when you start doing that. And the other thing is the folks saying that, that's too high. That standard is too high. Let me tell y'all something right quick. Do you realize how many people there are who have in Atlanta done bought $500,000 houses, $1 million houses, and that is everything in this world that they own? The only experiences they've had are if the government forces them to do it by way of the military or something. But when it comes to their own lives, they're not continuing to invest in themselves. A house is nice. It's not a continuing investment. How the hell is it you're going to spend over $1 million on a house and none of that is going to do anything to improve the value in your family? Maybe you can pass the house down. Maybe you can't. But that's not going to enhance or improve the value in your family. And then you take a look at it here tonight. When you get somebody who does talk about these kind of things, take a look at the response from some people. Some people are showing you that they're just scared. Some folks are showing you they're just afraid. Yeah, because if you're going to get with a guy who's got a plane, he's got requirements. When you get with a fellow who's made those kind of investments, that's requirements. Just understand that when you get with someone who makes investments, those are requirements. They're going to have standards. Nobody's going to go off and do that and expect nothing. If they do that, they expect something. And they got the ability to pull that. They can give you different things. You have a different perspective on the world when you've got to actually have a new skill set. Flying, boating, diving, those are new skill sets. Mountain climbing, those are new skill sets. You can do it with other people, you can do it by yourself. But also it makes you rare. Not only is it a new skill set, it's a skill set that makes you rare. Everybody can't do this. Everyone can't do these kind of things. So what I'm saying is that if you are going to be competitive, and here's the other thing that scares folks here. Let me tell you something. If you're a competitive man, you're competitive about everything. If you're a competitive man, you're competitive about everything. You're not just competitive about one or two things. Damn being a regular guy. You know what? Let me tell you about abusive females like Melissa. Melissa is an emotionally abusive female. She will sit up here and get a, quote, regular guy, and no, she ain't got a guy making $200,000 a year. Not even close. But she's the kind of female who, a man who's got something going for himself, I ain't gonna fool with that. She will go and get a deficient male so that she can exercise her superiority over him. She wants a weak male who is easily dominated and easily controlled. She wants a weak male who, like Keke Palmer, she wants a fella that she can flex on and feels like maybe he won't flex back. She wants a fella who has as few options as possible, not as many options as possible, because a man with a lot of options the female is gonna have to be ultra competitive herself. She ain't gonna be able to just sit there as a bump on the log. If she is gonna be there, she's gonna have to be ultra competitive herself. And she doesn't want to be ultra competitive herself. She wants a guy who she can dominate. She wants a guy she can lord over. She wants a guy she can flex on. She wants a guy who's got no options. She wants to get fun. What did she say? You notice that she said the problem was that guy's pilot's license. Him being a pilot, that was the problem. Well, yeah, because this fella here, his ability to pull females is not local. His ability to pull females is literally national. You talk about getting flued out, he can get flued in. He can get flued in. She doesn't want to have to compete for that. No, she wants the little weak recessive fella. Give me the guy I can dominate. Give me the guy I can get over on. Give me the guy I can punish. Give me the guy I can do in. Give me the guy who, when I talk crazy, when I talk silly, when I start telling outright lies, give me the guy who got to sit there and listen. I don't want a fella who can get up and say, yeah, you full of that nonsense. Let me roll. I don't want that. I don't want a guy who can do that. I want a fella I can dominate. That's why guys need to work on themselves, fellas. Even if you don't go to a gym, although you should, even if you don't go to a gym, you should at least have workout equipment at home so that you're challenging yourself. That's how you make yourself more valuable to the world. Having the ability to challenge yourself, taking a look at things that other people aren't doing and that you excel at it. How many exceptional fellas do you know, guys? I'm talking to the fellas right now. How many exceptional men do you hang out with? These are truly exceptional men. Not, well, my daddy was. I ain't talking about him. I'm talking about how many truly exceptional men who have truly exceptional skill sets that they're in the top 2% of people. They're in the top 1% of people globally. They're in the top 1% of people on the planet. How many of you have that? That's why I said when your social circle includes individuals in the top 1% of something, academia, sports, medicine, technology, industry, banking, when you associate with individuals in the top 1%, that's automatically going to have an effect on you to step your game up. Just being in their proximity is going to start to rub off on you a little and get you to start stepping your game up simply because you're in their proximity. Y'all are sitting around with other individuals who got the damn cell phones in their hands, but they don't excel at anything. There's nothing that they're in the top 1% of. And guess what? Neither are you. So what I'm saying is, start developing skill sets. And these are things that don't take years. It takes months to get your pilot's license, not years. These are things that you can excel at in a matter of months. You can excel at it in a matter of months. That's all it takes. And then automatically you are better. You're evolved. You're going to carry yourself differently, not because you think you got something other people don't have, because you know you got something that other people don't have. And by the way, you can go ahead after that and step your game up even further. If you want to get your commercial pilot's license, you can do that too. If you want to get your commercial pilot's license and go beyond that, you got that option. If you want to. You have the ability to do that. If you want to. Or you can just sit back and be the regular guy. But I just want you all to understand something here. Fellas, you are old enough to understand when a female tells you that she wants a regular guy, you know that's the biggest damn lie in the world. You know that's the biggest lie in the world. What female wants a regular guy? There are regular guys all over the damn place. Show me the place with all these happy regular guys who are talking about, yeah, man, the ladies love us. They just want me to do. Who are the regular men that the females are treating so well? Who are they? Who are the regular people? The regular men that the women dig so much. Because it's real easy to say that lie and act like, oh, they love me now. I just want me a regular dude. I'll take a regular guy. And the only woman who wants a regular guy is a substandard female. Tell me, folks, I want y'all to think about this for a few moments. This is something right here that should have caught your attention. Will you please explain to me who in the hell is a 10 in California who wants a regular guy? What female in Southern California who is a 10 wants a, quote, regular guy? Who is that female? Where do they hang out at? Who are the females in Southern California who are 10s and they want a regular guy? How do you know she's lying? Because she claims to be a 10 in Southern California and she wants a regular guy. I'd rather have a regular guy. When you think about it, that's good me. I think that's good. Think about that for a few moments. She sat here and said, I want a regular guy, and then nothing. What kind of 10 wants to walk around with a regular dude? She claims she's an exceptional female, but she wants a regular guy. Do you know that the men of Southern California fellas would be flocking to Southern California if that's the way that 10s operate? Ooh, I can just be a regular dude. That's good right there. Look at all these 10s. They love us here. The beaches would be... Hell, you wouldn't need all these red pill pickup artist dudes on YouTube if that was the way women operated in Southern California. If that's the way they operated in Southern California, you wouldn't need that. So how do you know she's lying? There's too many clues. It's too many. So fellas, what I'm saying is, what gives you leverage? What gives you ability? Start showing that you have mental and emotional and financial competence. Start showing that there's nothing ordinary about you. In the modern era, yeah, it's more challenging, and I'm letting you know where the bars really are. If you're a fella who's truly competitive and truly wants to test himself and truly wants to push your limits, your BMW 7 Series might be the bomb, okay, on 4 wheels, but if you ever want to step your game up and get your black belt, by the way, there's other levels out here. There are other levels out here. There's other things to do. There's other stuff to show. There's other stuff to see. There are other things out here. If that's really what you want to do. Or you can sit there and listen to Melissa and she'll tell you I just take a regular dude, while you know full damn well she's lying her ass off. How many fellas actually believe her? How many fellas, show of hands in the chat room, if you really believe her, give me the thumbs up emoji. If you don't believe her, give me the prohibited emoji, the red circle with the line through it. If you truly believe that she was a 10 and that she really just wants a regular guy, give me the thumbs up emoji. If you think she's lying through her damn teeth, even if she's a size 18 in California, if you think that she's lying, that she really wants an exceptional dude, which is why she was trying to talk to a pilot, give me the prohibited emoji. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking it was that. Yeah, I was thinking it was that. Damn! Fellas, I'm not telling you that you have to have a plane, you have to have a boat. What I'm telling you is that for those of you who are ultra competitive, for those of you who are aspiring to more, I'm telling you that YouTube and your favorite rappers haven't told you the half. The game has changed. There's different levels out here. And if you really want to demonstrate how competitive you are and really want to show how far you can go, there are other options. There are other options for you. There are other things you can do. There are other ways you can step it up if you want to. And if you don't, you know what? That's okay too. If you don't, that's okay too. I'm just talking to the fellas who want to. If you do, leave it at that. I will tell you one thing, it'll make you more special. It'll make you more special, it'll make you more excellent, and you'll have a lot more confidence in yourself about other things. Or you can listen to Melissa, who was regaling us that you don't need that. As a matter of fact, the things that Jason's talking about would make you a worse person. Yeah, so you can go pick up a quality female like her. That's what I would want to do. I would want to go pick up a quality female like her. Makes perfect sense to me. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight. Just another brief reminder. For those of you who have been asking me, those of you who have your CDLs and you've been asking about truck driving, you're going to have the ability here soon. I've got a broker that we're going to be having on the program. We were supposed to have him on this weekend, but there's going to be rescheduling here, so it's going to be later this month. So look for us to give you the notification about that before the month is over here. Probably going to be about the second or last weekend of the month. So it won't be this weekend, but it will be before the month is over. So for all my truck driver people who've been wanting to go in depth about the brokerage thing, they've been hammering me about that for months and months now. So for the folks on Patreon, we're going to go ahead and hook that up for you here to get all questions answered. Once again, just a brief reminder, if you have your private pilot's license, if you are a flight instructor, or if you work at the flight school, send me a shout out here with the subject line, pilot's license, and you can email that to me at handlethebusiness@yahoo.com. That is handlethebusiness@yahoo.com. I'd like to see a lot more people get involved in this. I'd like to see a lot more people, get into that type of world and start to develop those skill sets. I'd like to see us doing things differently. Let the mumble rappers and the pants saggers run around chasing cars. Let's do something different. Let's talk about some real status symbols. And I'm not talking about the plane. I'm talking about the ability to fly. I'm not talking about the boat. I'm talking about the ability to sail. Think it over. If you want to join us, let me know. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up tonight. If you are new here to The Business, welcome to the program that all your favorite YouTubers love to hate watch. We are the real thing. Click that red subscribe button. Click that yellow notification bell. Join us each and every time that we are here. If you haven't been to our Patreon, the link is in the description. You definitely want to go ahead and check that out. We'll definitely be glad to have you with us here tomorrow. I'm going to be touching more on this. Because here's the thing, before I go, y'all understand something. You hear the garbage from number 0, and you hear the mess from Melissa. The nonsense from number 0 and the mess from Melissa. What I'm saying is that I told you all when we started this. This is hard, man. This is difficult. This takes an emotional strain on people. It takes an emotional toll on them. They don't want to hear this. They want to hear, give me my driver's license and I'm good enough. That's what they want to hear. They want to hear, can you just chip me off with a driver's license and I'll be good enough? Ain't that enough? That's what they want to hear, is bare minimum. So if you want to be, I told you they were going to start, folks don't want to hear that there may be some work involved, some sacrifice involved, some effort involved. You got to leave your comfort zone. They're scared to death. They saw their mama taking the bus. They saw their daddy taking the train. We talking about, hey, you know what? You could actually steer that. No. You need white folks or aliens to do that. I can't do that. Well, you sit where the hell you are. I told you all that there were going to be people here just tonight just couldn't believe it. They just couldn't believe it. That we're talking about this and like, no, y'all shouldn't be wanting to do that. Why, that doesn't raise your value. You need to stay down here with us. Stay down here with me, number 0, as I pile up my car with men's. I told you all that that was going to happen. That there would be people who would, they don't want to see us rise. They don't want to see us do anything different. They want us all sitting right down here where they are. No changes, no elevation. Their tomorrow looks just like their yesterday. And I'm saying, let's do something different. I'm saying, let's do something. Who wants to do something different, man? Who wants to have an adventure? And don't get me wrong, I've driven across this country and out of it, and that's cool and everything. But we've got a generation of young people today who are not intrepid. They haven't experienced anything. They haven't journeyed somewhere. They haven't adventured somewhere. They haven't made their own mark. They're not doing exceptional things. They're just one among many. That's the point I'm making. Your driver's license makes you one among many. Your pilot's license or your boating license makes you one among a few. That's scary. Because when you're one among a few, you don't look at the masses the same way. Some basic broad like Melissa can't come through. You're like, yeah, you already limited. And that's scary to think that when you step your game up, everybody else is going to be out on the outside. That a lot of folks get scared when that happens. They don't want to become bigger because bigger has consequences. Remember, I said that at the beginning. Change and evolution has consequences. There will be sacrifices. There'll be things you got to give up. There'll be folks that you get along with today that you won't be able to get along with later because you can see how limited their worldview is and you can see how limited their vision is. And then you got to start asking yourself if that's where you want to be. You got to start asking yourself if that's where you want to stay. If these other folks are perfectly fine driving their Honda Accent, mixed up manufacturers, Hyundai Accent, up and down Rodeo Drive, hey, do you? But don't tell the rest of us who have bigger visions, bigger ambitions, and bigger abilities that what we're aiming for isn't every bit as great as we said it is. Don't try that one. Don't try that one. So, everybody who wants to kick it with Melissa and number 0, sit back there with them. Everybody else, come with me. We're going somewhere you haven't been before. And then before it's over, I'm going to hand you the wheel. And you can take yourself wherever you want to go. Now that'll be a new one. In the meantime, I'd like to thank you all for joining us here tonight. Thank you to everyone who has contributed to tonight's program on PayPal, CashApp, Super Chat, Venmo. Thank you for listening in live or recorded. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing, and just thank you. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of The Business. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, Mr. Jason Black. And until next time, all of my brothers, all of my sisters from around the world and across the wild blue yonder, handle your business, or your business will evolve and handle you.